How's it rockin', Dween Nation? This is the Dween Sports Podcast. We're about to get underway. But before we do, we'd love if you could like, comment, subscribe, or share. We are posting weekly sports content, and we want to build up the brand that is Dween Sports. Thank you all, and enjoy.
Welcome in, Dween Nation. This is your host, Justin Paez, alongside Genoa Agudelo, and we are back for the big-time free agency predictions. This episode is featuring quarterbacks, so we're going to discuss the top names either on the trade block or headed into free agency themselves that we might see some new teams, new big money being spent, and we're really, free agency is some of the most exciting parts of the NFL offseason. The movement of teams makes the NFL so unpredictable. If everybody was on the same team every year, then it would be kind of predictable. But that's why we get new things every year. We had Saquon last year, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, some big names join new teams, and that's what we're going to discuss here. But before we do, how you doing, Genoa?
Yo, Dween Nation. Justin, I'm doing good. Hey, this is, what I'm saying? We are on the road to a new season there, Justin. This is going to be a ton of shuffling. We have a new champion in sports, Jalen Hurts, and this Eagles team. A lot of these players never won a Super Bowl, and like a lot of teams are shuffling. They're wanting to chase the Eagles on the NFC, and they want to. They know if you're on the NFC, they know that hey, we can be the team next to dethrone the Chiefs as the AFC's best team. And so I feel like both sides are chasing now, which, Eagles winning the Super Bowl makes this league fun to watch because now you got the Rams that's like were a play away from beating the Eagles and ending, not happening to now dismantling their offense. And so Justin's very interesting to see. And, we're going to be talking about the Rams very briefly because you and I have some different thoughts on where they're going to go at quarterback. And so this is a very exciting run to free agency. And what a next couple of months is going to be, Justin. So, Dween Nation, buckle up, get ready, because what a free agency. How crazy it is about to get.
No, I'm really excited. At first, minus the big news about a certain Matthew Stafford and about Aaron Rodgers, I was thinking that this quarterback, class would be a little bland. It's Darnold, who, used to be a backup, and there's some other names that we will discuss. But now it's gotten really interesting. A lot of different names, a lot of different opportunities and landing spots. And let's start with Sam Darnold, the quote-unquote top free agent, because Matthew Stafford is currently on the Rams. But Sam Darnold obviously led the Vikings to a 14-3 record, a playoff berth, but also a playoff loss. But hey, now he's headed to free agency. The Vikings have J.J. McCarthy. What will they do with Sam Darnold, and where will Sam Darnold go, Genoa?
I think he stays in Minnesota. To be honest, I think he had a pretty rough wild card game, obviously. He was really bad in LA. But you know what? I think that he got you there. Remember, they were 6-0 or something like that up until that first loss at home against the Lions. He had a really good year, Justin. You know what I'm saying? And Jefferson had a really good year. Addison broke off in the back half. Hawkinson came back. He was healthy, had some good, chemistry with Darnold. Why don't you have them together? Obviously, you have J.J. McCarthy there. I really don't see the point of going another direction. You have these two quarterbacks that are set. But I understand if, he's asking for a ton of money when you got McCarthy. I don't know, Justin. For me, I guess you make it work and bring him back for Minnesota, but I do understand that.
Wow, that to me, the back to Minnesota thing, I could see it if, they feel McCarthy's not ready.
Yeah.
But if they do think he's ready and he's healthy, that would be really tough to throw a lot of money to a possible backup. Yeah. But I see what you're saying, because for Sam Darnold, he may be thinking, hey, I was good in Minnesota. I probably won't be good for a really crappy team that actually pays me more money. We will see. For me, I'm predicting that Sam Darnold is headed to the Las Vegas Raiders. They need a quarterback pretty badly. And I'm not saying Sam Darnold's a new franchise quarterback, but with Pete Carroll there, he has experience with lesser-known quarterbacks. He made Russell Wilson a more known quarterback. He had these years with Geno Smith. So, I think that Sam Darnold can roll into here, not be a star, but be a guy that can lead the offense to some good winnable games. Obviously, Sam Darnold needs pieces around him. He has Brock Bowers, but maybe get at your 6th pick in the draft, maybe get Tech McMillan. I don't know, but I got Sam Darnold, the Raiders. What do you think?
I was thinking, Justin, I was going to add to that. If Vegas were to do that, you already have Brock Bowers there. And then, Drew Nation, we also had a first-round draft. I predicted that they go with Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver at Ohio State. And so, Justin, that would work out just fine. You get Darnold a number one tight end. You get him a number one receiver. And then with the running back situation, it gets interesting because, can Zamir White have a resurgence year? Like, might be back? Are they going to bring him back? Are they going to trade him, cut him? Same with Madison, or Justin. What if they can make a end of round one trade and get Scatterbo, right, and get them a nice running back and then into the first, second, third round? And so I like it. And so I understand though if Darnold were. I would understand if Brady and that organization said, you know what, let's give this Darnold back a chance.
Yeah, I mean, and the running backs, you're right. They could go for a rookie in the draft. There's also some names in free agency: Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, J.K. Dobbins had a great year, Rico Dowdle. Not great names, but there are names that the Raiders can move to because I do think they'll change up that running back room. It won't be Zamir White and Alex Madison. But anyways, what do you have, though, for this next quarterback, Aaron Rodgers?
Justin, for fantasy's sake, once upon a time, Aaron Rodgers was my favorite quarterback in the league. Even when he was dicing up my Texans, I remember on a Sunday Night Football, I still said he's one of my favorite players. I want to see him one more year, and I would like to see him in Los Angeles with the Rams. I feel like, the piece that would still be there after Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford leave is Puka Nacua. And this guy, hopefully, is going to be going in the first round of fantasy drafts. He's talented. He's, and I feel like, we'll talk about this later, but I think Devontae Adams will follow him there. And you look at what McVay has been able to do, and I want to focus real quick about Baker Mayfield, right? Baker Mayfield was terrible in Cleveland, Carolina, but he gets that one stint in L.A., right? When Stafford was hurt. That was the year they were reigning champs, the year after they won the Super Bowl. And Baker Mayfield has this drive against, I think it's the Raiders or Broncos on a Thursday night Christmas, something like that. And game-winning drive, revitalized his career. That offseason, he gets a nice little contract with the Buccaneers. But now Aaron Rodgers, he had this, tenure in Jets with, an ACL tear, and the next year, this past season, where he just didn't really perform. Even after they brought Adams, after they had Garrett Wilson, I feel like Sean McVay is kind of going to be able to repair it and end Rodgers' career on a better note than what it would be if he just retired after New York. And there's not really reports that Rodgers is done playing. So I feel like if Rodgers is 100% in it, you know how Rodgers gets, Justin, when he gets in his mood and he gets in his little, I don't know. You know how Aaron Rodgers gets. That's whenever you have to push back. Okay, he's not coming back to play. But I think that McVay is, he's parting ways with Stafford. And I feel like McVay, he was excited to get a Von Miller a few years ago, right? He respects the legend. So I feel like he's going to be kind of psyched to, hey, why don't we get Aaron Rodgers, have him a year or two, and, a bridge quarterback with someone else and pair him up with Puka and maybe get Devontae Adams. So I'd say Rodgers goes to L.A. To play under Sean McVay.
Yeah, no, I mean, with Rodgers, for fantasy's sake and for Aaron Rodgers' sake, he hopes he can go and play for the Rams because that'd be the best possible option with Sean McVay. Otherwise, he's starting for a really crappy team or as a possible backup, which I don't see happening for Aaron Rodgers this late in his career. And that's why my prediction is that he will be on the Pat McAfee show and he will be retired, not playing football anymore. The sad thing that makes it hurt is that he ended his career at such a low note with the Jets. That's where I could see him maybe wanting to go back for another season. That's why I would love him to go to the Rams. That would be my favorite option. But what I think is going to happen is we will not see Aaron Rodgers take another snap in the NFL. I mean, a great career he had, but I just think I just don't think there's anywhere that's going to want to bring him in. But that's what I have for Aaron Rodgers. And since we let the cat out of the bag that the Rams starting job is up for grabs, let's talk about Matthew Stafford. Where do you think he is headed?
Justin, I think he goes to Vegas. I know you have Stafford going there. I just feel like, Stafford doesn't want to go across country. Him and, his wife, she obviously has a podcast of her own. I think they want to stay out west there. So I think if they were to head to Vegas, obviously he's familiar with Tom Brady. They've had some battles in the past couple of years when he was with Tampa. And, Justin, I feel like Stafford is going to be familiar with Pete Carroll. Obviously, he was a part of the Seahawks when Stafford was a little bit in L.A. and most of his career in Detroit. So they definitely crossed paths a ton in the matchups there with Detroit and Seattle. And so I feel like he's going to feel very comfortable playing in a nice stadium in Vegas. He doesn't have to go far. He gets Brock Bowers to start things off, and then maybe Like I mentioned, they do draft Ibuka, regardless of what quarterback they end up with. And I think that, you know what, that's a nice little ending for Matt Stafford there. Pete Carroll, you got Tom Brady looking over everything. They add young talent, and that division is very competitive. So I like Stafford to be in this season on a nice warm note there with Pete Carroll in Vegas.
You know what? I like that. I mean, I have Darnold to the Raiders, but I really like that move because Stafford, you're right, he stays on the West Coast or the west side of the country, and he doesn't have to go somewhere where he's going to be playing in cold conditions outdoors. He's only ever played in indoors. With the Lions is indoor, with the Rams is indoor, Allegiant Stadium's indoor. So I really like that. It's making me want to pivot a little bit, but I'm going to stick with the pick I wrote down in our doc, and I'm going to go with him going to the New York Giants. You have Malik Neighbors there already. And then we had a mock draft, which I'm not going to spoil who we had, but it also helps the offense in some way, shape, or form. And that would really transform this Giants team, a team that Brian Daboll and Joe Shane, the general manager and head coach, if they don't make anything happen this year, they are fired. So they're going to be going balls to walls, all out to really make this team a possible playoff team. And I think they do it by getting Stafford with Malik Neighbors. That's the best possible quarterback option they could do to be successful this season, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, Justin, I like it. I just don't. I don't really like it. I mean, I understand it if he does go that route. I'm not the biggest fan because you mentioned the cold weather, and he's really not a cold weather quarterback. It's kind of like golf, where you can't really trust him on the road. But you know what? I understand. I think him and Dable would be somewhat of a good fit there as a quarterback head coach duo. And I would like Malik Neighbors' stats to end the season. I definitely like him as a top fantasy wide receiver, maybe a second, third round pick there in this year's drafts. But I think people would probably overdraft Malik Neighbors though if that were to happen. If Stafford were to go to New York.
Yeah, I see your point. Moving to the next quarterback, I feel like that was the top tier of quarterbacks. Now we move into a little bit of the lower tier. The one that's right below it is this guy, Russell Wilson, who was the Steelers quarterback last year. What do you think? Is he staying in Pittsburgh or is he moving on?
Yeah, I think he stays in Pittsburgh. I think he really has nowhere else to go. I think he knows that. And I think that Mike Tomlin really isn't on board with Justin Fields. And so I think maybe they might keep both. Who knows? I know we might talk about that in a second. But I think that Russell Wilson is great to stay in Pittsburgh.
I agree. I completely agree. Russell Wilson to stay in and start. I think it's the only place that really he's going to find a starting gig. Sorry. And I think that they were successful with it. So I think obviously they made it to the playoffs, but they didn't win anything. But that's kind of the Steelers' MO at this point. And I think that's what they're going to do and stick with Russell Wilson. Moving to the next quarterback, let's talk about the guy who really took over Super Bowl week, not playing football, but a guy that was just a fun watch and has always been a fun watch. Let's talk about Jameis Winston. He obviously became the Browns quarterback last year. He had some bright spots, definitely had some low spots. But now he's kind of the comedic relief guy we always want to watch. What team will he be playing for next year?
You know what? I like him to go to the Giants there, Justin. I feel like, maybe if the Giants go Shador, I feel like he'd be a great veteran, a great locker room guy, a guy to spark the energy in New York. You have, the Eagles and the Commanders made the playoffs. Cowboys a few years ago winning that division. So they need a new culture spark change there since Saquon left. They need some juice. Neighbors is there. They got some talent. They got some young guys. They need someone that's going to be able to rattle back and forth if it is Shador, because I think that those personalities can bounce off each other. They're able to compete, especially when it comes time to training camp. You got Jameis, you got Shador or Jameis, and another guy that New York drafts at quarterback. I feel like they're going to be able to compete there. Dable is good. This is his potential last season. If he doesn't get it done, like you mentioned, he could be out. So definitely this training camp is going to need to be sparked by some veteranship. So I feel like Jameis Winston is the perfect guy in the Big Apple.
You know what? I really like that. I really like that. And I think, for Malik Neighbors' fantasy value, to me, my favorite two quarterbacks just for this season, obviously a rookie can build into being a star, and that would help Malik Neighbors in the long run. But I think just for this season, Matthew Stafford and Jameis Winston would be my favorite two quarterbacks to pair with Malik Neighbors. It would be he would get so much volume. So I really like that Winston one there.
Jerry Jeudy. by the way.
Yeah,
Jerry
right.
Jeudy had a
We saw
great
it happen.
back half of the. That was phenomenal. So.
I completely agree. Jameis, anywhere he goes, is a passing fanatic, and
Oh yeah,
it's great for fantasy. He throws a lot of picks, but he also throws a lot of touchdowns and
yeah.
yards. So I like that. Where I went with this was a quote I heard from general manager of the Colts, Chris Ballard. He said, we're going to roll with Anthony Richardson, but we really want to give him some competition. And Joe Flacco is scheduled to be a free agent.
Yeah, he's
And
another one.
obviously that experiment didn't really work out as him in the backup. Then he came to start, and it really wasn't pretty. I think Jameis is a guy that can just – I know Anthony Richardson's going to be the starter next year, but he's going to at least going to give somewhat of a challenge to AR heading into next year, and that's why I have Jameis Winston as an Indianapolis Colt. There's not really any fantasy impact, but if he were to jump into the starting role, it would kind of be exciting for the pass catchers more because Jameis Winston tosses the rock a lot. Anyway, moving to the next quarterback, we got two more left to talk about. Let's talk about a guy who has failed in the NFL to a pretty big margin of it. And you just talked about Jameis Winston joining the Giants. Let's talk about a guy who is no longer a Giant. And Daniel Jones. I know he was on the Vikings to end the season, but what team is he going to end up on next year?
Justin, honestly, a laundry list of teams he could end up with. I think he fits best maybe in like a Cincinnati backup role, maybe like a Chargers backup role to Herbert. I think he goes to a team that already kind of has their franchise guy, kind of similar to what Carson Wentz is now, behind Patrick Mahomes and stuff like that. So I feel like, Daniel Jones, if he ever wants to start again in this league, I do believe that he needs some learning on how to be a passing quarterback. He's a pretty good running quarterback. Like, he's got some really good rushing games, right? Rushing touchdowns. He's pretty good, honestly. If it's like a rushing quarterback contest, obviously he'd probably be like 5 or 6 under, the Lamars, the Josh Allens, Jalen Hurts. But you know what? I feel like he needs to really build his mechanics passing. And if he ever wants to start again, he needs to understand that. So he needs to go to a team where they have a franchise guy already that he can just sit and learn. He doesn't have to be active every week. He can just be a guy that, you throw on your third string, but you can still have him as second string if Herbert were to miss a game, or if you already clinched the seed, something like a last game of the season, then that's where you can, throw in Daniel Jones. But definitely a starting behind a team like Cincinnati with a Joe Burrow, or maybe a Philadelphia behind, Jalen Hurts, like Pickens did.
Yeah, I think that'd be interesting. He definitely needs to learn more. And that's why I actually have him falling into a starting quarterback position next year. He lands with an offensive guru, a guy that we've talked about already, with Sean McVay, and he is the starter for the Los Angeles Rams next season. Now, there's been one small rumor about a month ago that was of interest with the Rams, and Daniel Jones just sat about 6 to 7 weeks to end the year with Kevin O'Connell, who is a former Sean McVay employee. So I think Daniel Jones, he's either staying as the backup and competition to J.J. McCarthy, or he's finding himself a starting role with the Rams. What do you think there if he's a starter?
I like that. Sean McVay never really has had a rushing quarterback. He had Jared Goff all those years, and then Stafford these past couple years. He had Baker in that year that Stafford was hurt. So he hasn't really had a rushing quarterback. So maybe he wants to test the wheels on that, get himself a running quarterback. Maybe he has other things up his sleeves. Maybe have a package kind of thing. I would like that. McVay, I think he's a phenomenal coach. He's one of the best young head coaches we've ever seen in the history of this league. Absolutely phenomenal what he's been able to do in under just 10 seasons there. He's nearly about to hit there in the NFL as a head coach. And so, you know what, Justin? I definitely like that. I mean, I think any quarterback sounds good with me. It's like your favorite hot sauce, your favorite barbecue sauce. I mean, you can have onions and fish, and it's still you put your favorite sauce, and it'd be just fine. It's like cane sauce, Justin. That's what McVay is. He's cane sauce.
Yeah, he literally you're right. He makes anything good, and
yeah,
I love that. That was good. And the fact that I feel like the last handful of years now, it's been like there's always one quarterback that kind of like surprises everybody during the year. Like Darnold last year, we saw Geno do it. Who else have we seen do it? Baker. We saw, Josh Dobbs did it for like 8 weeks out of with the Cardinals. So I think that if there was anyone, it's going to be this one. And I thought it was an interesting landing spot. Let's move on to the last guy, Justin Fields. He was the backup slash starter slash backup slash starter slash backup slash starter, like all throughout the year with the Steelers. Is he staying there or where's he heading?
Justin, I don't understand the hate on Justin Fields. I was right about Jalen Hurts. I don't get the hate about him. He's won a Super Bowl. Justin Hurts is like second on my list. I don't understand the hate. If I'm Pittsburgh, I'm kind of all in. I'm all in. This guy's a winner. He's a baller. I love him. He's honestly wanted, a rushing quarterback a couple years ago, not this past season, but he was a top rushing quarterback a couple seasons. He was a top 3 to 4 rushing quarterback. If you take away Lamar and Josh Allen, because those are kind of like the consensus, he was as good as Jalen Hurts as far as yards per carry as a quarterback. One of the best. He had a great season. I think it was 2022, 21, around those couple years. Really good seasons there. I'm a big Justin Fields guy. Mike Tomlin, they need to stick with this guy. Just give him one more year to learn, man. I believe in Justin Fields. Get him. I think he stays in Pittsburgh, even though like 5 minutes ago I said they don't keep both quarterbacks. I think they should, and I don't have any word that I want him to go. Honestly, I think he should just stay with Pittsburgh because they're a nice young team, and I think he fits well with Tomlin.
No, I think that's still a really good landing spot. He picked to go to the Steelers last offseason when they were like, we're going to trade you. And he was like, I'd like to go to Pittsburgh. And so if there's really no other starting gigs out there, I could see Pittsburgh.
Seattle.
I could see that too. That wouldn't be bad at all. Yeah. No, that's not bad at all now I'm thinking about it. I have him going to the Vikings as the backup / competition to J.J. McCarthy. I know. I feel like and what's funny, we're doing like a carousel of quarterbacks. He's joining his old team, and he's joining that new team, and it's all the same teams. But with Fields, I feel like another, Kevin O'Connell has been able to work with solid to average quarterbacks and make them really good. Maybe if JJ's not ready, Fields can really step in there. I don't know. I feel like
I'm sorry. I love Fields in Minnesota. I love it. Phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, for Jay Jettas, it might be like a little bit of a damper in fantasy because Fields isn't like a star passer, but I think Fields would become a really good fantasy option with the weapons and then his rushing ability.
Justin, I would say like in fantasy, if he's named a starter, let's say Darnold finds somewhere else, like another home. Let's say McCarthy isn't 100%, and it looks like Fields is a guy. You can get this guy in the 10th, 11th round with your 3 good running backs, your 3-4 good wide receivers. You got your tight end maybe already there. Your 10th, 11th guy, your starting quarterback, maybe not. But, I mean, hey, if you pick quarterbacks like 10th, 11th, you pick 2 kind of at the end, I mean, that would be a great, great pick for your team.
Yeah. Dang. All right. You're making me feel good. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Dwayne Nation, those are our quarterback free agency predictions. Those are the top names on the board. I know there's a couple other names that are also Cooper Rush is a free agent, Jimmy G, Mac Jones, Joe Flacco, Drew Lock, Marcus Mariota, and Jacoby Brissett, Trey Lance, and Zach Wilson. A lot of backups, none of which we thought were relevant enough to speak on as fantasy impactful moves. Not trying to be rude, but if you're curious, we will talk about it. Just let us know. And we got way more coming up. We got running backs, we got tight ends, we got wide receivers. We'll probably sprinkle in some defense because there's some big names on the defensive side. So yeah, and then obviously if you were curious, why this player didn't go to this team, it's maybe because we have predictions on where the draft is going to go and where teams are going to draft certain players. We had our own mock draft. If you were watching this video, you know that the mock draft has already happened. We've had one mock draft. Go ahead and watch it. Let us know what you think. But thank you guys for listening and keep catching up with us. Keep staying tuned with us because we are here. We are on TikTok, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, here, of course, in YouTube, and more, and Instagram and more. So just check us out and keep spreading the word about Dween Sports. We love to keep building up. But thank you guys for listening. And Genoa, send us out.
Yo, Dween Nation. This was our quarterback free agency predictions. Stay tuned because we're going to have running back, wide receiver, tight end, and so on there. And not to mention our continuous videos on all the mock drafts of the draft. So a very exciting time, free agency draft. We're looking to find who's going to be the next team, the next player, the next franchise guy. We're so excited. We got you covered here at Dewey Nation. So thank you guys for watching. We love you guys. And as always,
peace.